and welcome. I know it's been a long time since the last English video on this channel aired, but I thought fuck it, I want to talk about sitcoms again. It's probably due to my university studies, because I actually wrote a large paper about the phenomenon of miscommunication in the show Friends, a show which I adore. But okay, let's just dive right in. The moment of relief and analysis about jokes in sitcoms. This is something I've thought about for a while. You know, I've watched Friends again, I've been watching How I Met Your Mother, and also I tried watching The Big Bang Theory, but it just didn't stick. And also a lot of movies recently. Because it's my last big holiday before I before I leave university after doing my exams. And yeah, I want to talk about jokes today. So I hope you guys enjoy. So the first thing we have to talk about is, what is a joke? Well, a joke is short. It can be verbally, so orally, like you tell a joke. It can also be practical. You could fall down, and that makes it physical. So it's also like, haha, he's got diarrhea, or he is puking everywhere, and that's kind of funny. Adam Sandler thinks this is funny. So I put a question mark behind the word funny, because it can be funny for, you know, a person A, but person B will, you know, be standing alone in the rain and saying, well, what the hell is so funny about this? And also, a joke is there to subvert your expectations. I'm going to go back to this in a second, but first I want to explain what the moment of relief actually means. It means a joke is there to stop tension, to break tension, to break conflict, to make you laugh, to make you forget. Well, it's actually a pretty dire situation that you are in. Everyday struggles are being interrupted with jokes, and I think everybody knows this. There's also even a trope. It's called the comic relief, or the comedic relief. It's a person. It's a character in a film or a show that's been put into the show in order to make people laugh or to ease the tension. For example, let's say C-3PO in the original Star Wars trilogy. He's always like the bumbling sidekick and always not really cracking jokes, but the actions he does make the audience laugh, and therefore he is the comic relief. You can judge whether Jar Jar Binks was a proper comic relief in episode 1, but it was his purpose to ease the tension, yeah, even though he wasn't really that funny. Okay, now subverting expectations is you have an expectation, or you anticipate something, and then everything gets turned upside down. So a joke works like this: a setup. It's like we have these items in the room, we have these characters in the room, we have this particular situation. And that's the ground base for our joke. Then events transpire, people talk to each other, and then we anticipate as an audience what this joke could be. Because we assume there's going to be a joke here. And our assumptions, whether false or true, make the anticipation and actually the end, the conclusion, or the payoff even more fruitful. And then we have the payoff, and hopefully we will laugh, because it's funny. So, subverting expectations is when you see something and you expect something to happen in a particular way, but then it does not. So your assumption is wrong. You anticipated the wrong thing. And this is actually what makes us laugh most of the time. So here's an example for a joke. The teacher was mad at me for something I didn't do. Really, what was it? My homework. So we anticipate that there was actually something there that person A actually didn't do, like he or she was being falsely accused of doing something, and then, oh really, what was it? What have you been wrongfully accused for? And then she says, or he says, well, my homework, which is actually funny because I don't have to explain this, okay? But there we have it, setup, anticipation, payoff, classical structure. Now coming back to subverting expectations. There's a thing called juxtaposition. That we have two items and then they are close together. You can often see this in advertising and commercials and stuff like that, where you have like initially the one thing and in the end it's a completely different thing, and that makes it funny. So two items are close to each other and they contradict each other. For example, the Pope walks down the stairs and the Pope falls down and breaks his fucking nose. Yep, you don't expect the Pope to fall down and break his fucking nose because he's a person of honor, you know, of high status. Like, you do not think that the Pope will just trip and break his nose. And that's what makes it funny. Or if the Queen just has diarrhea on an open stage and poop gets everywhere. That could be funny, but I'm just trying to explain what juxtaposition is. Then there are other kinds of jokes. For example, puns. I love puns because they are kind of clever, and they take a little bit more of your brain cells in order to work, because they work on a phonetic level or lexical level. They are items with the same sound pattern, and they are used for comedic effect. I have two examples. I wanted to use herbs, but I don't have the time for that. So time is an herb, and also time is time, so that's the joke there. Making bread is the yeast you can do. It's because you use yeast to make bread, and yeast and least sound alike. Those are lame puns, I have to admit. But you get the gist. Let's go for the shitter. How I Met Your Mother. 9 years of comedy, sometimes good, sometimes bad. More or less bad, actually, if you really think about it. If you wanna see my initial analysis about the show, there's a link in the description beneath this video, and there's also a playlist, and you can go ahead and watch it. But I have to admit, the show doesn't really get off that easy when I start to talk about it. Alright, so that's the structure of How I Met Your Mother's jokes. We got a setup, we got a setup, we got a setup. What does this actually mean? The way the show is structured is not really beneficial for jokes. You know, it kind of works in the opposite direction, which is sad. It is, because that is the structure of the show. We have the timeline and we have the jokes. And the timeline and the jokes, they do not mingle. That's the problem. So we got the framework. That is, Ted is explaining everything to his kids. Then we got flashback 1, which is actually the main story of the show, which a lot of people do not realize. That actually the entire show is a flashback. Flashback 2, as you know, when the camera goes to the left or right and it makes a sound, and then we are in a totally different time setting, a totally different location, and everything is different, and it sometimes, you know, mingles in with a joke in the flashback 1 timeline. Okay, and then also we have sometimes flashback 3 was kind of like a C-plot or whatever, and that also jumps in and out, and in and out, and in and out. And then a structure like this turns up. You know, we have the main story, or the framework, which actually only comes up in the beginning or the end of a show. And then we jump into our main story. And then, as you can see, there are all these B and C plots just stuffed in there. They're just stuffed in there. And the joke, when you actually think about it, is it's all in the editing. The jokes in How I Met Your Mother are not really jokes. They only work because they're edited this way. Because if you have a stringent timeline and you just meet in the bar, and then we have no jumps back and forth, and we're just sitting there each and every episode, talking and drinking and talking and drinking, it would get boring as fuck. And also, a lot of their conversations would not make any sense anymore, because it's becoming very incoherent. Like, really incoherent, because actually part of the joke is what we see in the flashback. So the writers kind of took the easy route in order not to make jokes about each and every thing, you know, trying to make realistic conversations between the people when it comes to being funny. No, they just built a setup, and then basically a setup, and after that a setup again. And the payoff, or even the anticipation, is kind of lost in the process. You know? Because it's all in the flashback, and then we come back to the main story. And then, of course, there's the artificial laughter. Telling the audience, like little cats or rats in a maze, to laugh. And that's kind of sad. We're not Pavlov dogs. First of all, it's the framework, as I said. And there's another problem with that. The framework, I don't know, did it ever strike you odd that this guy is telling his children each and every single dirty detail about his life? Well, I thought as much, but only when the show stopped. When it was over, I said, yeah, he actually told his kids about every affair he had, every time he cheated on his girlfriend, every time he hit on a married woman, and that's weird. There's actually an episode where Barney wants to bang 7 chicks in 7 days, so it's kind of like The Ring, but with sex, and Ted goes like, in the end of the episode, Ted goes like, hey, I'm going to tell my kids one day how Uncle Barney boned 7 chicks in a week. And then they flash to the, well, actually, the actual timeline, and it goes, whoosh, am I a bad dad? And then it just goes, dun 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 dun, and we got the credits. That it's, yeah, and that's the joke. That's actually a perfect example for the whole structure thing. So, this episode about how Barney fucked 7 girls in a week is actually just a giant setup for no anticipation at all, because it just goes on for a lot of time. And then, in the end, we got the conclusion of the kind of payoff, and the joke is, am I a bad dad? Which is actually, well, I would kind of say yes. And also there's the conclusion. The conclusion to the whole show is a joke in itself. But we will come to that. Okay, number 2, the characters. So, if you see my other video about How I Met Your Mother, you already know that I hate the character of Ted Mosby, because he is like 90% pathetic and 10% drunk. The characters themselves don't work, because they are, well, just so over the top and ridiculous. The ironic thing is that actually Barney Stinson is the one character people can relate to the most, even though he is a man running on overdrive. He's like the most manly man that has ever manned. And, well, he has a Bible, he has the playbook, he is on Victoria's Secret parties, and all of that. But in the end, he becomes the couch potato he initially refused to be, marrying Robin. That they get divorced within the same episode they get married is a ridiculous thing in for itself, but, well, that's the point. We need a common ground. We need to understand what who these people are and why they are the way they are. I think the best characters, the most fleshed out characters, are Marshall and Lily, because we see how their romance started, how it evolved, you know, how they cancelled the wedding and then got back together, and she has the most craziest eyes ever and blah blah blah, and then they have this apartment and Dois a tripla, and then she gets pregnant, and then they have Marvin, and then his dad dies, and we have a lot of information about these two. Robin is kind of a blank slate. She's Canadian, has problems with her dad. That's it. I can understand. With Barney, they attempted to do something with him, like, so, oh, that's so sad, oh, that's so cute stuff with his dad and his brother. But when it comes to Ted, it's really, really weird, because he's kind of an empty slate. You know, the show's creators said Ted is actually modeled after them. Where I said, okay, you are just, holy shit, you're fucking weirdos. But there's no common ground here. We cannot relate to their completely unrelatable life. And that leads us to unrelatable scenarios. As you can see, the picture down there is from season 8, I think. Who wants to be a godparent? And that's not a joke in itself. Like, oh, that's so over the top. Like, for example, in Scrubs, when JD has his little ideas that come to him from time to time. Like, things that are only in his head. But this is real, and the show wants to tell us that this is real. So they do a game show, literally a game show, in order to find out who of the three, Barney, Ted and Robin, is going to be the godparent for Marvin. In the end, I think the conclusion is they are, all three of them are the godparents, which makes no fucking sense whatsoever. But yeah, that's what I call jumping the shark. It really is jumping the shark, because no one ever in their right mind does that. And if I were, you know, in the position of Ted and Robin and Barney, I'd say, why the fuck do you do this game show? Can we just sit down and talk about it? I don't even know if this is an analogy or something, or like a trope, or telling us that, oh, this is something that actually means something totally different, it's a metaphor for blah 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 blah. No, the show is not that clever. I'm sorry. And also we have Ted's Topics, what I call it, and that's also why the show doesn't work, in my opinion, especially as a comedy show. Because in the first episode, he starts out with, I'm going to tell you the story of how I met your mother. And then it goes on, I want Aunt Robin. And then it goes on, I found a girl that I love, but fuck her, I want Aunt Robin. Repeat. For 9 seasons. And then in the end, it says, your mom is dead. Can have Robin now? That's the basic structure of the show, which is one of the reasons I do not like the framework, but it was an intriguing thing to do. It was interesting. It was different. Now let's talk about the Big Bang Theory. A whole universe! The Big Bang Theory joke structure is kinda similar, but, well, it works in a kind of the same 3-parted structure, but on different terms. So a joke in this show will work like this. We have the trivial blah, and then there comes nerdy or scientific blah. And we have confusion. Not conclusion, and not a real payoff, we just have confusion. But how does this confusion, you know, come to be? I have an example. I just picked this out of my mind as letting a conversation that I thought would happen, because I do not watch the show a lot, and well, I kind of know a bit about quantum mechanics and astrophysics and blah 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 blah. I was shit in school, but I kind of did my reading after school about stuff like this. So, thanks for coming, Sheldon. I found the cat. Good job, Schrödinger. Well, why is this joke funny? Well, it isn't. It results in confusion because Penny doesn't know. And then Sheldon will go on and start with an overcomplicated explanation of what the Austrian scientists Schrödinger actually thought of, and this will result in confusion. And of course we have the canned laughter then, and then we know we are Pavlov's dogs again. And that's the problem of the show. It's laughing at and not laughing with. So, let's break it down. Penny does not get the thought experiment about quantum mechanics and an everyday object being both dead and alive at the same time. So that's the idea. When he put the cat in a box, just read it. So, in theory, the cat would be then both dead and alive. Okay. Penny doesn't know this, so therefore Penny is stupid. Sheldon doesn't know that she doesn't know, and explains it in a very, very complex way. And that means Sheldon is antisocial, because he does not know how to talk with people. He's kind of walking around like a little Asperger's prince, and that confuses everyone, including the audience. So it's, haha, she's stupid because she doesn't get it. You know, the thing about Schrödinger's cat, you cannot be that stupid, right? And on the other side, it's Sheldon. Hey, you know she doesn't know. Why are you talking to her like she's, like, on your level? That's too... Oh yeah, I get it. You don't know how to speak with people. And the audience is left alone. So either you know, or you don't. That's the problem. Either you know about Schrödinger's cat, and we can also adapt this to literally every single joke in this show. When they talk about Justice League, when they talk about like Warhammer or whatever the fuck they talk about. If you don't know, then the joke doesn't mean shit to you. And if you know, your reaction might be, okay, so what's the joke? For example, if there's, you know, the Enterprise, and there's a joke about the Enterprise in Star Trek, and someone on the show says, oh, let's put phasers to stun, or something. And as a Star Trek fan, or at least someone who knows the line and knows what it means, it's like, okay, I get it. It's a reference, it's not a joke. And if you don't know, you kind of feel bad, because you say, okay, what's the joke? Why is the canned laughter coming up? And therefore the joke is, oh, even the audience is stupid. Which is kind of revolting. So in the end we're going to talk about Friends. And, you know, in the eyes of many, this is one of the best shows ever. Like, the epiphany of everything. The epitome of what a true sitcom should be. Well, of course, they all said when it first aired, oh, they're just trying to copy Seinfeld. And when How I Met Your Mother came out, they all said, oh, they're just copying Friends. But with How I Met Your Mother and Friends, it's kind of too fucking obvious if you actually think about it. But that's another video. We're going to talk about joke structures. The joke structure in Friends, quite similar, yet a little different. Because we have a setup, we have a payoff. Anticipation is rather small in this. It's there, don't get me wrong, but it's not that huge. And then in the end we get food for thought. What it actually means is, we can build up a joke and we can pay it off. And then after that we're going to make them think about what you just heard. There's something that How I Met Your Mother and The Big Bang Theory especially, they just don't give a shit about, to actually let the room breathe, let the characters breathe, let a situation evolve and give the audience time to process what just happened. Because if you structure a show like How I Met Your Mother, and you constantly cut and switch from 3 different time periods, your brain gets fuzzy. The structure of Friends is simple. The episode starts and it moves chronologically, 22 minutes from start to end. And whenever there's a joke that's happening, it's happening because it's a joke. The jokes do not result in editing. They result in performance. They result in timing. They result in chemistry. It's because there are actors on screen, and most of Friends was played out on a stage with live audience. So they have had numerous outtakes for, the 10 years the show was running. And often the actors would crack up and they had to redo a line for like 50, maybe 100 times. The audience was still laughing, obviously. That made the show a little bit more friendly. No pun intended. Yeah, keep it simple. That's what I'm trying to say. You have a start, you have an end, and you have to fill the middle part with stuff. And if the audience can follow your jokes and you have a common ground, it'll just work out. And that's what a good joke is all about. So, here are 2 examples from Friends. Can you help me with my furniture tonight? Oh yeah, I could, but I don't wanna. There's everything there. So, he's asking whether she can help or not. And she says, oh yeah. So we have the short glimpse of anticipation. And then she's all like, oh yeah, but I don't wanna. And that's the joke. And that's also the food for thought. It's like, I wonder if that works. Can someone actually say that? And then the other example. I really thought she was the one. From now on, this chair is the one. And these sweatpants are the one. Oh, come on, take them off. Take the sweatpants off. And we will have some fun. Okay, maybe not that kind of fun. There the joke results due to, well, a juxtaposition. Take the sweatpants off. Actually could mean, okay, let's fuck. Because take the sweatpants off and we will have some fun. What Ross actually wants to say is, take the sweatpants off, put some jeans on, and we're going down to the bar or the club. Yeah. Not maybe that kind of fun. Yeah, I didn't mean sex. And that's funny. If this joke were to happen in How I Met Your Mother, for example, it would work like this. So, I really thought she was the one. From now on, blah blah blah, I will be in this chair and these sweatpants are the one from now on. And because the writers of How I Met Your Mother, well, they have to spell everything out, because they solely rely on editing, they would be like, no, 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 you will take off these sweatpants and put on a suit. Remember that one time when we went out with you in sweatpants? And then will be a flashback and it will be cheap. And then the flash forward. Yeah, I'm not wearing a suit tonight. Oh, come on! And will be a little circle of depression. And in the end, he or she will go out with him and they will experience some wacky hijinks or something. Okay, so I hope this wasn't really that boring, because I know theory about these kind of things can be rather boring, but I thought I did an okay job. Now let me know, what do you think? Leave it in the comments below. Let's talk about this. Let's discuss. And I hope I'll see you on my next English video. I'm sorry, it's a German channel, right? And I only do English flicks from time to time. But if you want to see or hear more, and be my guest. So, see you later, and have a nice day.